Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to take another look at our fundamentals demo, and specifically, we're going to take a look at our ExportInfoToCustom function, and we're going to make a slight change in it that will allow for us to better structure the output of our application. Now, if you've not yet watched that video, I encourage you to do so. And what we're going to do is we're going to handle the problem of where our ExportInfoToCustom dumps all of our text files to this one location. And in this particular case, it's dumping it to the root of our classes folder. If you only have a few text files or a few users, then that should not really be a problem. But as our application grows and the use of our application grows, we would end up with quite a few text files all sitting in the root of the classes folder, which is definitely not ideal. And so what we want to do is we want our application to automatically build a subfolder to put those files in. And to accomplish that, what we're going to do is we're going to make a very slight modification to our ExportInfoToCustom function. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can go about doing this. I'm going to pick a way that involves using one more object so that you can sort of see how you could handle this independent of the ExportInfoToCustom function, and hopefully give you a general idea of how Java deals with folders. It's a little counterintuitive. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and create another object of type java.io.file, and I'm going to call it output folder. And then what we'll do is we will take that output folder and we're going to instantiate it as a new java.io.file. And we're going to use the name users. In other words, the idea here is that I want to have a subfolder called users. Now, if anything, you would argue that file and a folder should be different things. If you want to think of this as a file system object, that's perfectly fine. But what this object gets us now is the ability to create the appropriate directory based on the name that we provided or the string that we provided to this constructor. And so what you can then do is you can call this output folder dot, and you'll see that there are a number of functions, but the make dir as well as the make dirs functions. And you can go ahead and pull up the information or a little additional information by going to the source. But you'll see then this will allow for us to create a folder, assuming that we have the capability to do so, and it will return a Boolean value as to whether or not it was successful at creating the folder. And so true will indicate that the directory was created, false otherwise. So in this case, then what we've done here is we have created now a subfolder called users. So we want to leverage that by coming into our constructor for the output file and simply prefacing it with users slash, and then added to that then the Blazor ID from the sample collected info, and then appended to the end of that the .txt file. Now you're probably wondering, why isn't this working? Well, the reason is because the double quote can be exceptioned out of a string in Java by using the same character that would indicate the differences in the folder and file path. In other words, to be able to do this, much like in C, where you could put a percent in front of a percent in order to be able to print a percent, you would put two slashes then next to each other to indicate that you want that slash in the string. And now this will allow for us to include the path, the user's rather, folder in the path to the output file. So at this point, we should be mostly set because we've already written our logic. This could probably open up another discussion about whether we should be checking to see if the file exists, because now it'll also be checking to see if the folder exists. And then we could possibly rewrite our logic. But ultimately, we are going to catch any errors in opening the file for permissions reasons with our try catch block. At this point, we should be able to build it. And then if you come back to your folder, you should see there is no user subfolder. And then we can come back to our application one more time. And what we're going to do is we're going to run our ExportInfoToCustom, again, using our input.txt as the source. We don't get any exceptions. So hopefully we should see now a users subfolder. And then in that users subfolder, we should see a gmyers.txt. And again, the behavior of our application only changed slightly, and just to prove that it will work a second time, again, no errors. This file simply got overwritten. And you can now at this point then completely delete the earlier text files just to verify that we have successfully moved our output. And sure enough, I don't continue to get the gmyers.txt in the root of the classes folder. It's now in the users subfolder. Again, just to recap, we did add an extra variable that you could argue that you wouldn't need. There are alternative ways of going about doing this. However, I hope that this is the clearest way of doing this, in that you can now create a subfolder in the existing file system to then put files into at a later point. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to email me, and thank you for watching.